and that the AP was barred, which they said was because they're not using the phrase Gulf of America, they're using Gulf of Mexico in line with their standards. And so the question here is this setting a precedent that this White House will retaliate against reporters who don't use the language that you guys believe reporters should use? And how does that align with the First Amendment commitment that you were just talking about?
I was very upfront in my briefing on day one that if we feel that there are lies being pushed by outlets in this room, we are going to hold those lies accountable.
This should have been done by Biden years ago. This should have never been allowed to happen. I know he's a friend of yours.
But couldn't Putin just withdraw his...
He's a friend of
today?
CNN. That's why nobody watches CNN anymore.
Karoline Leavitt and Kaitlan Collins have locked horns once again, and this time the sparks are flying hotter than ever. The tension between them has been simmering ever since Karoline took over as White House press secretary, with each fiery exchange ending in her favor. But their latest showdown was so explosive that people are now questioning how Collins still holds her spot. What exactly did Karoline say that left Collins stumbling over her words on live TV? And could this be the moment that completely dismantles what's left of Collins' credibility? Stay tuned, because this face-off is one you don't want to miss. In recent weeks, Karoline Leavitt has delivered some headline-making, if not controversial, remarks aimed at CNN's Kaitlan Collins, creating more sparks than a 4th of July fireworks show. But their latest clash has ignited such a media frenzy that it might just need its own crisis response team. It all began when Collins, never one to back down, thought she had Leavitt cornered with this question.
Which White House official made the decision to bar the AP reporter from the Oval Office and the diplomatic reception room last night?
Well, first of all, let me just set the record straight. It is a privilege to cover this White House. It's a privilege to be the White House press secretary. And nobody has the right to go into the Oval Office and ask the President of the United States questions. That's an invitation that is given. And there are hundreds of outlets on this campus, many of you in this room who don't have the privilege of being part of that pool every single day and getting to ask the President questions. We reserve the right to decide who gets to go into the Oval Office, and you all have credentials to be here, including the Associated Press, who is in this briefing room today.
At first glance, the question may have seemed simple, even harmless, but don't be deceived. It was a trap, a setup, a calculated attempt at a gotcha moment. Kaitlan Collins wasn't just asking a question, she was laying the perfect ambush. Her eyes were locked on that viral clip, the one she believed would expose a glaring contradiction within the Leavitt-Trump camp. With a smug grin and unwavering confidence, Collins was convinced she had it all figured out. But here's the thing. Karoline Leavitt isn't some inexperienced spokesperson fumbling through talking points. She's a political force to be reckoned with. She saw Collins' move coming from a mile away. And rather than walking straight into the trap, she flipped the script. Not only did she sidestep the setup, but she turned it right back on Kaitlan in a way that left the CNN journalist scrambling. When Karoline stated that access to the Oval Office isn't a guaranteed right for journalists, she wasn't just making a point, she was delivering a mic drop moment. It was a masterclass in control, flipping the narrative before Collins even realized what hit her. Now, listen closely to this clip and I'll break it all down for you afterward.
And so the question here is this setting a precedent that this White House will retaliate against reporters who don't use the language that you guys believe reporters should use? And how does that align with the First Amendment commitment that you were just talking about?
I was very upfront in my briefing on day one that if we feel that there are lies being pushed by outlets in this room, we are going to hold those lies accountable. And it is a fact that the body of water off the coast of Louisiana is called the Gulf of America. And I'm not sure why news outlets don't want to call it that, but that is what it is.
Denied her coveted gotcha moment, Kaitlan dropped the act and revealed her true colors. Her entire setup had one goal: to weaponize the Associated Press's so-called ban from the Oval Office. The plan? To frame the Trump administration as hypocrites, outspoken defenders of the First Amendment who suddenly got cold feet once they were in power. It was classic media spin, and Collins was convinced she had struck gold, but this is where it all unraveled. Karoline Leavitt, always 10 steps ahead, wasn't about to let Collins control the narrative. With a calm yet razor-sharp response, she reminded everyone of her commitment to holding the media accountable for their lies, distortions, and outright propaganda. And part of that accountability? Ensuring that outlets like the AP, which spread misinformation without hesitation, weren't given free rein over the most powerful office in the world. The message was crystal clear. Press freedom doesn't mean freedom from consequences. And, just like that, Kaitlan's so-called expose backfired into yet another self-inflicted disaster. But did Kaitlan finally learn her lesson? Of course not. Here she is once again, going head-to-head with none other than the leader of the free world, Donald Trump.
President, you won the White House in part because of high inflation. If your tariffs make prices go up...
Excuse me, we haven't asked you to speak yet, please. Right?
Trump shut her down, not because she was being assertive, but because she crossed the line into outright disrespect. This is his office now, and he sets the rules. He decides who gets the floor and when. If he doesn't call on you, you don't. Get to hijack the moment. It's as simple as that. But instead of following the same rules as every other journalist in the room, Kaitlan tried to bulldoze her way through. Trump wasn't silencing the press. He was maintaining order and ensuring. Other reporters had their fair chance to ask questions. The smartest move for Kaitlan? Wait her turn like a professional, not throw a tantrum just to grab attention. But, of course, decorum has never exactly been CNN's strong suit. And as for Trump, he wasn't done with Kaitlan just yet. While answering a question about Mitch McConnell, he took a sharp jab at her, just to remind her who's really in control.
As the next health secretary, citing conspiracy theories. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I feel sorry for Mitch. And I was one of the people that led. He wanted to go to the end and he wanted to stay leader. He's not equipped mentally. He wasn't equipped 10 years ago mentally, in my opinion. He'd let the Republican Party go to hell. If I didn't come along, the Republican Party wouldn't even exist right now. Mitch McConnell never really had it. He had an ability to raise money because of his position as leader, which anybody could do. You could do it even, and that's saying a lot.
Donald Trump knows exactly how to deliver a brutal burn, and this time, Kaitlan Collins was on the receiving end of a savage one. With just a few sharp jabs, he had her scrambling, grasping for a comeback that never came. Then came the knockout punch. Locking eyes with her, he casually remarked that she was just as incompetent as Mitch McConnell. The room went silent for a moment as the weight of that insult sank in. Collins had walked in thinking she could control the conversation, but instead, she found herself publicly dismantled. This wasn't just a casual dig, it was a precise, calculated strike that exposed her bias, her weak arguments, and her failed attempts at playing hardball. Trump wasn't just shutting her down, he was reminding her and the entire press corps exactly who's in charge. And judging by Kaitlan's stunned expression, she got the message loud and clear. But Trump wasn't finished yet.
By Biden years ago, this should have never been allowed to happen. I know he's a friend of yours.
But couldn't Putin just withdraw his...
He's a friend of
today?
CNN. That's why nobody watches CNN anymore, because they have no credibility. Okay, who else? Yes, please.
Let's be honest. This isn't Trump's first showdown with CNN. His battles with the network go way back, and if there's one thing he's mastered, it's exposing their bias in real time. Remember Jim Acosta? The so-called journalist who made a name for himself by constantly interrupting Trump and grandstanding during press briefings? That is, until Trump had enough and revoked his White House credentials after one outburst too many. Now, Kaitlan Collins is following in Acosta's footsteps. Same network, same tactics, same embarrassing outcome. Trump has never shied away from calling out CNN's antics, and each encounter only proves how desperate they are to catch him off guard. But time and time again, they fail, because while CNN is busy chasing gotcha moments, Trump is playing to win. You remember that infamous exchange between Trump and Kaitlan, don't you?
One person who was at the Capitol that day, as you know, was your vice president, Mike Pence, who says that you endangered his life on that day.
I don't think he was in any danger.
Mr. President, do you feel that you owe him an apology?
No, because he did something wrong. He should have put the votes back to the state legislatures, and I think we would have had a different outcome. I really do.
But he doesn't have the authority to do that, as you know.
What?
The vice president does not have the authority to reject those election results.
Are you ready? Let's have this one out just now, because it's interesting. Let's keep it interesting, right? I like Mike Pence very much. He's a very fine man. He's a very nice man. He made a mistake. His lawyer said, you cannot move.
Trump asserts his authority and reinforces his role as the true leader in this exchange, responding to her remarks with unwavering confidence. While tough questions are important, Collins should have approached the discussion with more respect and backed her arguments with facts, just as he did.
I hope everybody's on truth. If you look January 6th, this is before 2:30. I am asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful. This is right after, as it was happening. But what happened is they took it down. I don't know why. I think they took it down because it was so good. They didn't like it being up there. I am asking, and we didn't know until I got it back, because now I have 90 million people waiting for me to go back, but I'm on truth and I'm staying on truth. Listen, I am asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful. No violation. We want no violation. We want no violence. Remember, we are the party of law and order. Respect the law and our great men and women in blue. Thank you. That was at 2:30. That was very early.
I love how Trump is bringing the receipts and throwing them right in Kaitlan's face, proving her and the entire woke media machine completely wrong. For years, they've pushed the same tired narrative that Trump incited his supporters to storm the Capitol and destroy democracy. They've painted him as a power-hungry tyrant, a so-called dictator in waiting determined to rule Americans against their will. But here's the truth they refuse to accept. Trump did call for peace. He did tell his supporters to stand down and respect law enforcement. And now, with undeniable evidence to back him up, he's dismantling the media's manufactured lies one by one. The same journalists who spent years smearing him are now scrambling, twisting themselves into knots to spin yet another false narrative. But Trump had enough of their nonsense and called them out right then and there in front of everyone.
Why you held on to those documents when you knew the federal government was seeking them and then had given you a subpoena to return them?
Are you ready? Are you ready? Can I talk?
Yeah, what's
you
the
mind?
answer?
Do you mind?
I would like for you to answer the question.
Okay, it's very simple to answer.
That's why I asked it.
It's very simple you're a nasty person, I'll tell you.
They just couldn't stop twisting the facts, even with Trump laying out cold, hard evidence right in front of them. The proof was there, undeniable. But did that stop the woke media machine? Of course not. Because to them, it was never about the truth. It was about pushing a narrative, no matter how many lies it took to keep it alive. To the woke mob, Trump could do no right. If he called for peace, they claimed he didn't mean it. If he condemned violence, they said it was too little, too late. And if he defended himself, well, that was just him playing the victim. The goal was never honest reporting. It was always about controlling public perception. This is the same media that spent years amplifying baseless accusations, censoring stories that didn't fit their agenda, and gaslighting the public into believing fiction over fact. And now that Trump is standing his ground, challenging their lies with undeniable proof, they're panicking. Because the more people see the truth, the less power the media holds, and that terrifies them. Meanwhile, Leavitt is still having a blast at the expense of Kaitlan and her woke colleagues.
The historic proposal for the United States to take over Gaza, announced by President Trump last night, underscores this commitment. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. President Trump is an outside-of-the-box thinker and a visionary leader who solves problems that many others, especially in this city, claim are unsolvable.
Yep, Leavitt nailed it. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over while expecting a different result. And by that definition, the left and the woke media must be completely out of their minds. For years, they've set the same traps, baiting, twisting words, taking things out of context, convinced that this time, Trump or his team will finally crack. And every single time, total disappointment. But do they ever learn? Nope. Instead, they double down, recycle the same tired tactics, and somehow expect a different outcome. It's like watching a bad magician perform the same trick over and over. Hoping the audience won't catch on, they roll out their so-called bombshell reports, act like they've landed the final blow, and just when they think they've got him, BAM! Trump or Leavitt shuts them down with facts, logic, and an unshakable ability to handle the media frenzy. At this point, it's not even a fair fight. It's like watching a toddler try to take on a heavyweight boxer and get knocked out cold. Every time. But hey, let them keep trying. If history has taught us anything, it's that the left is better at losing than at realizing they're losing. And that wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.